Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for another comic book spoiler review. This one will be pretty fast because I was all too curious. I mean, initially it'll be the next one now, but initially the next review was going to be Psylocke. But after going through the X-Men TV shows, I'm like, I really am curious about Dazzler. Because she pops up every once in a while, especially when you have like mutants going to some kind of concert, and it's always Dazzler has got to be a thing. Uh, and she's pretty much like a pop star, rock star kind of person with light based kind of powers. We'll go through her power set really quick, but first, if you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let me know if you are a fan of Dazzler, and if you're curious about about her. Here's where we'll do some kind of dive into her. But also follow me on links in the description below, like my Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, and of course Twitch, as I'm live all the time. So, Dazzler, aka Allison Blair, and it's such a 90s name, Blair. Her powers are sound conversion. I'm about to say conversation. She has the ability to transduce sonic vibration, which reach her body into various types of light. This ability seems to operate over a great range of frequencies, including the audible spectrum, 35 to 16,500 cycles per second, and a great variation of sound pressure levels, regardless of the complexity, dissonance, or randomness of the sound. For example, a car crash and a symphonic passage of equal duration will both produce usable music incoming acoustic vibrations. Dazzler, however, does prefer the sound of music, particularly that which is rhythmically sustained. Not only is music more pleasant to the ears, but the steady beat of popular music provides a more constant source of sound to convert. However, she cannot use any sound produced by her own body. Despite the limits of her sound conversion ability being unknown, she was capable of absorbing unimaginable sounds, including the explosion of an entire galaxy, to boost her to sufficient levels when exposed by Galactus to travel into a black hole on its behalf. She also demonstrated she could absorb the sonic waves of Black Bolt's devastating voice. So, pretty doggone powerful. And you know how Black Bolt's, voice can just obliterate, a chunk of a planet if you wanted to. Sound release. She has the ability to release the absorbed sound in one burst. Echolocation. Dazzler can use her conversion ability to act as a very crude form of echolocation. After singing through an amplifier for a minute, she has displayed the ability to see humanoid shapes through a brick wall. Like projection, Dazzler possesses a body-wide energy field that controls the energy levels of the outer electron shells of her body in such a way as to cause the cascaded release of photons. In effect, this field is lasing with the apparent efficiency of a laser, 99.9%. The released energy is far greater than the incoming kinetic energy, and therefore must involve an outside energy source, the nature of which is unknown. Left undirected, Dazzler's light will radiate from her body in all directions, producing regular flashes of white light. By conscious control over the light she produces, she can control its direction, frequency, color, amplitude, intensity, and duration. She can produce numerous effects with the light she converts from sonic vibrations. She can create very simple patterns out of rays of light like circles, squares, triangles, and stars. She has learned to manifest her light as blinding flash, lasers, photon blasts, illumination, strobes, dazzle. She can create chaotic cascade of sparkling lights and colors that severely upset other people's equilibrium, to be specific about that. Holograms, rocket burst. She has the ability to gain vertical altitude by directing a quick column of light beneath her. Destructive shield. She has the ability to create a destructive shield of light around herself with laser light that can vaporize small projectiles. Light mist. She can create a glowing or hazy, almost fog-like effect that obscures the surrounding area. Omnidirectional ultraviolet light. With extreme effort, she can generate omnidirectional waves of ultraviolet light of sufficient intensity to destroy metal objects, even metal structures several stories high. Light immunity. Her body, especially her eyes, shields itself against any injuries effects of her light-traducing abilities and against those of bright lights in general. Sound immunity. She has the ability to transduce sound, also protects her from being deafening by loud noises. Immunity to powers of Mortis. She has been shown to be immune to powers of her half-sister Mortis, which ordinarily kills living beings instantly. Because just like with Cyclops and Havoc, any blood-related mutants, their powers cannot affect each other. Superhuman hearing. She has highly developed ears, enabling her to detect sounds that others cannot register. Flight. Resurrection. She has presently afflicted with a mysterious resurrection factor which prevents her from being killed. Abilities. Highly skilled athlete, good at hand-to-hand combat thanks to the training with the X-Men. Talented singer, actress, dancer, and highly accomplished roller skater. More often than not, when you look up Dazzler, you Google her, you often find her dressed in like an all-white kind of 70s attire with rollerblades. That's her 70s attire. Of course, she has updated outfits of modern times, so we don't have to constantly see that. Weaknesses. She cannot directly use sounds produced by her own body as a source for her power, so it needs outside noise. She has an equipment called Lightbringer, the hammer formerly belonging to Thor. Allison acquired it after Thor's death due to the Mpox and kept it in the trunk of a car, which you see in one, because there's two stories. They're kind of short, but it's two stories. One of which you see in the back of her vehicle, there is a Mjolnir. And it's like 2018, so I don't know if that's still a thing or not. But yeah, and she was created by Tom DeFalco, John Romita Jr., and Roger Stern. Ooh, okay, like I said, this is gonna be kind of brief because it's not really like some decent solo stuff with because Dazzler isn't like one of those kind of top tier X-Men characters, so she really doesn't. As great as she actually got some kind of one-off stories, at least a couple of them. Oh, there's actually one ongoing thing, but that's way back, I think in the 70s or something like that. So, but I want to stick to like, because one shot is like made in 2010 and the other is made in 2018. So we'll just stick to those two. And like I said, they're fairly short. So, we're going to start with one written by Jim McCann. Okay. Now, Dazzler is in LA trying to find her sister, which we know is also a mutant. We know to be Mortis. And through this story, you realize like, oh, Dazzler really tangled with some decent amount of people. It's amazing that she, I mean, outside of the fact that from like the X-Men kind of stuff she's involved in, or X Factor, whomever, she's done with some heavy hitters. It's like that you don't think Dazzler would have ever tangled with. But we'll get to that in a minute. Well, she is searching through this bar trying to find her sister, who seemingly has gone missing. Because Dazzler and her sister had like a terrible family life. Their mother was like strung out on drugs when they were little. The father was like, you know, apparently was some kind of lawyer, but he's kind of like a, you know, like a wife beater, and it left out on them. It's left like these kids damaged in, you know, one way or the other. And just Dazzler probably like made it out on the other side better than the others. So she ended up getting like seemingly, you know, her drink got seemingly spiked, and she passes out outside of the bar and got picked up by a mysterious person. And she wakes up in this kind of like green room with her old Dazzler 70s attire, which, given the fact that it's like modern times, or at least in this case, in the story 2010, it's like, yeah, you pay homage to how the character originally appeared as, because obviously she probably would have been created in the 70s during all the whole glitz and glam rock era. But it's like, you know, every so often decade or two we kind of revitalize certain characters. So the fact that, you know, during 2010 or whatever, given her age in the story at the time, I know characters play, you know, writers play fast and loose with characters' ages and stuff, but she is, well, in this story probably like, you know, mid it's probably like in the late 20s, early 30s. And it's like, well, you got 70s attire, unless it's supposed to be some kind of you know, just a costume from like a show, the 70s, you know, theme kind of, you know, show that she's doing like back in the day. But she sees like, oh, it's a sign that says "wear me," and she has to pretty much follow this voice, which later turned out to be Arcade, villain known to fight the X-Men. It's kind of like, think of him kind of like Toyman in DC Comics, and he's like, you know, let's create, you know, dangerous games, kind of like crap. Well, it's called Murder World. It's pretty much like a dangerous carnival fair, and this guy is, you know, usually depicted as either a kid or a young adult, and he's like, you know, obsessed with games. So Dazzler's playing along, got all dressed up, and then she's immediately, because she's walking out on literal stage, curtains roll up, and here comes a bunch of she looks good. I'm like, you know, there's nothing wrong with the classics, and man, I mean, I could do without the rollerblades personally, but she looks good in that 70s attire and still rock it. No pun intended. And she knows is obviously Arcade, but then she got surprised by all these different robots of various people that she fought before, like Doom and Enchantress. I'm thinking to myself, it must be some old story, but it's like, how many people really read Dazzler like that? Which I should, you know, highly encourage you guys to like probably read up on some Dazzler and try to get her name really out there, because sure, she's not one of like the core members, but I think like we can easily put a shine on, you know, given the fact that, you know, like she's literally a pop singer on the same kind of level as like something like Taylor Swift or something. It's like, you know, matter of fact, if the MCU are so inclined, maybe not Taylor Swift, but maybe some, I was about to say Ariana Grande or maybe Selena Gomez as like a, but then again, was like the only hot new, I won't say new, but like only like pop singer, iconic pop singer that's young, with blonde hair is, the first thing you think of will be a singer will be Taylor Swift. And I kind of don't want Taylor Swift like in this kind of crap, but more than likely that probably would have been a lot of people's go-to, unless you want to go with like a no-name actress that can actually sing that and is blonde. But I was about to say, like, Selena Gomez or Ariana Grande could easily be like a MCU Dazzler, given the fact that she's a known singer. If anything else you don't know about Dazzler, the one that we all can remember, she is a pop singer. So she talked about all the like Enchantress and everything. Like what's when you fought Enchantress? But she takes down these robots, and you see like Arcade is talking with this mysterious lady. Obviously, it's her sister. There's no, there's really no mystery to that, honestly. But if you don't know much about Dazzler, this will probably be some level of a mystery to you. And Mortis, real name Lois. Now it's weird because it's like every time you hear the name Lois, you think of either Lois Lane or Lois Griffin from Family Guy. There's only two prominent Lois type characters in pop culture that you could think of. But the fact that she got a sister named Lois, I can't help but think that, man, she should look a little bit more like Lois Lane. Just a, little tease at DC. So, these two, because Morris wants revenge. She took revenge out of her father. Now she wants to, get a pound of flesh out of Dazzler because she feels betrayed by the people that are supposed to have been looking out for her, and because she, got in with, a particular villain. I forgot the name, and she just gone off the deep end, given the crappy upbringing they have. Not to make it any excuse, but this person attempted not only to kill Dazzler, but a lot of mutants she did kill, and most of the time she tried to come after Dazzler's friends from the X-Men. So, but Dazzler still want to try to help her sister. But then Claw, who was the mysterious person that did not drug her drink as she previously thought happened, but because she apparently fought Claw before, which I don't know how that or when that happened. Because it wasn't until like after the first Black Panther movie came out I realized that Claw was a Black Panther rogue. I thought he was like a Fantastic Four rogue, because back in the day Claw was kind of like a sound construct kind of dude that didn't speak much and kind of seemed like a joke fool that can't string two words together for a sentence. Because the first time I saw Claw in any comic was during the Secret Wars, where Dr. Doom took the powers of the Beyonder, and he was kind of like his right hand minion. And of course, like Claw, like throughout that whole entire thing, and this is way years ago when this comic was released. And I read it when, like in the late 90s for the first time as a kid. And I always thought he was just kind of like an idiot minion. But like during the mid 2000s, especially after the Black Panther movie, he's a little bit more like more literate and, not just some kind of crummy henchman. He has his own agency. But apparently Dazzler fought him, which kind of makes sense because being a sound-based type of villain, fighting Black Panther, who's vibranium, at a certain frequency kind of cracks a bit, And then also you got Dazzler, who needs sound to make her powers really effective. She fought him before and utilizing her powers to easily defeat him. Now he's kind of adapted, so now she can't pull that same trick twice, which I'm starting to think like, okay, you should have probably anticipated, you probably adapted to that. But she underestimated him because that was probably just like a goofy villain. And Arcade is kind of like perplexed with Mortis. It's like, what the heck is this? Clark wasn't part of our plan. And she's like, he was with me. And like, since your murder world thing didn't do the job, I'm gonna do it for you. But Arcade, not out any kind of chivalrous thing, he just thought like, hey, if you're gonna murder somebody, you want to do it fair. So he turns off his murder world contraptions. So now with all this, everything's falling to the ground, noise is being made, it's kind of revitalized Dazzler, so she can create this kind of light construct into like a, it's kind of soundproof rooms like you see like in like music studios, and trap Claw in this box, and then went after her sister. Now, during the ensuing fight, Claw eventually kind of slips away, so we never see him after this point. But after coming to terms with, because she felt guilty about what happened to her sister, but she come to terms about like all the stuff that she went through over the years. You see all these different like attires that I didn't realize she ever wore. Like I said, like how many of you actually read like that many Dazzler comics to actually point out an iconic look outside of her first appearance in that 70s attire? But she created all these constructs of her various forms that she took in comic book history, and started to distract Mortis to be able to land a finishing blow. After Morris is being carried away, making sure she's sedated so that way, she won't use her powers on nobody. She's like, she's in an alleyway, and look at this. I was flabbergasted. They did this on purpose. The artist clearly did this on purpose. She's in the alleyway with this trash can that clearly has Spider-Man's costume, obviously harken to the classic Spider-Man story of Spider-Man No More, when he threw his costume away when things got too hard. I think after it was kept when Stacy died on his watch. I thought that was kind of funny in a way. I was like, wow. But I thought, oh, she's about to throw her costume away because like after this whole ordeal, but no, she's carrying her 70s costume and it's like, realize like, my sister need me, I'm going to help her. So there's like a kind of like an epilogue where in this point in time, everybody's on Genosha or Utopia, I think they're calling it at the time. And she having like an argument with Cyclops, who, is like, hey, we cannot have her on this island, because if she wakes up, she's gonna immediately start attacking a lot of people, and I can't have that. And Daz is like, well, she's my sister. It's like, we gotta help her. And then they have this big blow up again, and she points out like lots of people on this island tried to kill us, like your girlfriend Emma Frost. And Cyclops pointed out like she actually never killed anybody. And so they're going back and forth, and Psylocke is there as like, kind of like a mediator. And it's like, look, I can reason inside her mind, put her in like a deep coma, so that way, we can kind of do like in a way like a therapy session in her mind and sift through all her issues, and over time she'll be well enough so we can get her out of this coma, and then that way she won't be a threat to anybody. So Psycho's like, fine, but she's your kin, but she's also your responsibility. So Dazzler then calls her mom, and you see this moment where it's like you can see inside her head what she really wants to say to her mom, because her mom in part is responsible for what led to her sister, being what she is, at the same time as like her father, who, I guess you kind of expected one response, but you can see like the mom is like, obviously gotten a little bit better, sober, and apparently like teaching like piano lessons, I guess. And she apologizes to her daughter, acknowledging her fault. And then you see like Dazzler kind of like, kind of chill out. And it's like, okay, she's taking responsibility, and you come to realize, yeah, like I had a hand in this a bit too, because I ended up walking away when I should have been there for her. So they all want to decide to like, we're going to do better by Mortis. So I mean, that was a nice little short story and a nice little epilogue to see where Mortis is at, because I'm pretty sure she's like don't know if, let's look it up. Let's see like what what she's up to in current comics. Okay. Wow. Yeah, it looks like this is the last time you ever actually see Lois and ever heard from again in Marvel Comics, after this whole situation, being put in a coma and trying to mend her broken mind. Never had anything else with her since. Wow. What's her powers? Molecular disruption field. Infinitesimal disturbance. She can generate a highly destructive energy from her being, which through molecular transformation can disintegrate or liquefy inorganic matter or cause living things to disperse their life energies, either causing temporary bouts of pain, a weakness, or instant death. So pretty much OP upon touching. There's a bit of light projection too. In contrast to Dazzler's luminescent radiant abilities, Mortis generates a dark photonic aura around herself, which can often accompanies in conjunction with whenever she uses her power. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, never heard from her ever since. Wow. Then we have another quick one with, in 2018, after she did some kind of resurrection and everything. And this is around the time when like Inhumans is really being pushed. So they're like the new mutants on the block, and they're kind of like pushing like, mutants. It's kind of like, the story's kind of like voicing, a lot of fans' concern of the time, where it's like, the writers, were really, because of the movies, they couldn't use like mutants like that anymore. And Inhumans was like the in thing that they still owned. So they try to apply X-Men problems to Inhumans, which kind of, in my opinion, does not work. I state that if you watch my discussion video about Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, I had that kind of discussion about that, where it's like it did not work when you tried to apply mutant problems to an Inhuman thing, and it does not work. You should just went with something else. But around this time, I imagine there's a lot of people feeling like, wow, y'all kind of like forgetting about the mutants. It's like they're like the cornerstone, one of the cornerstones of Marvel. And now it's kind of like written away in this story where it's like there's Ironically, the irony is so blatant it almost hurts, where there's literal mutant hate groups. It's like groups of mutants forming gangs to throwing hate speech and trying to attack Inhumans because they kind of encroaching on their turf, and with the whole terrigen mist being kind of poison to mutants, there's some mutants out there that have like grudges against Inhumans, and you see that a little bit played out in his Dazzler story. And this one is written by Magdalene Visaggio. So there's one mutant with kind of like light burst powers, but not to the same effect as Dazzler. But I guess it operates on a way like she moves and grooves to in a certain way. I guess it kind of like lets it out, and Dazzler's holding like a concert, like a small little concert, where it's supposed to be like not only mutant pride but Inhuman solidarity, where they're supposed to like mutant and Inhumans can like enjoy a night out together and intermingle and stuff like that. But then there's this group of thugs decide to pick on not only this purple haired lady, I forgot her doggone name, as just kind of like an example of like their use an example of like what they're venting their frustrations on somebody. So they kind of singled her out, and as they try to jump her and her friend outside of the club, while they was trying to wait for like a kind of like a meet and greet for Dazzler, who's trying to just go by her regular name of Allison Blair, or at least not Dazzler anymore because Dazzler's supposed to be dead, but now she's like a Lightbringer, which you kind of still look like Dazzler, so we just with different clothes. But I do dig this look for a like a common look for Dazzler, with like, because they kind of have right now in the comics, Dazzler have that kind of like almost look like Captain Marvel's kind of insignia on her shirts, but she also kind of got like a Harley Quinn thing going on with her hair, but it actually works. I love this look on Allison, so kudos to the artists involved in here. Dazzler steps in as these thugs are trying to beat up on these two women, and Allison meets up with like Colossus, who's trying to get her back into the hero fold and with the X-Men, but Dazzler at this point in time just want to have like a normal life. She really does not want to get involved in one of the heroic stuff, even though this kind of stuff every time I try to get out, they keep pulling me back in. And ironically, I made that Godfather reference. Ironically, I just had a conversation with some coworkers today, and two of which, maybe it's because they're in their 20s, they never seen not even the first Godfather movie, and they said they probably saw bits and pieces, but they never really sat through the entire thing, which got me to thinking at some point I want to like do like a movie review for like the Godfather trilogy. It's been a very long time since I've seen it, but I love at least the first two. I tell them like you gotta get like the first two like a watch, because they're like classic films that has to be like seen. Third one is so-so, but but anyway, Dazzler took care of those guys. They end up running away, and these Inhumans ladies are trying to explain to her like, yeah, this has been crazy for us because more of these some of these mutants like are so like angry with us, and they're forming gangs, they're attacking us here and there, and we're trying to live, you know, just trying to live our lives and go to certain places, but it's like it's ironically literal mutant hate groups against Inhumans. Now, of course, Allison doesn't like any of this, but she doesn't want to get really involved because it's still superhero related crap, and she just want to have like a normal life. But then, little by little, as she's going through like, you know, other gigs and autograph signings, little by little, she sees more, because you can tell these thugs are wearing like these kind of like, you know, bluish black jackets, and little by little, she sees more show up at each of her gigs. And at one signing, they try to step up and, you know, antagonize her, which she's not faced. I mean, she dealt with big bads, you know, before. These chumps ain't nothing, and she laid them out very easily, given the fact that she was trained by the X-Men themselves, and she fought several superhuman villains that can literally, you know, a portion of them can literally lay waste to a city if they so choose to. And so these guys ain't nothing. She, you know, kind of laid them out very easily every time she sees them. But then she's starting to really get concerned, because like more and more they trying to ramp up their little antics. At one point, when she meets those two Inhumans again at a different thing, and this time one of them brings a kind of power inhibitor, and so they can't really, you know, retaliate when they, you know, because dude, you're a man and you about to jump on these two women that without their powers, you know, they can do little to nothing to you. And it's like, whoa, wow, you're a real big man, you know, attacking women who can probably fight, but really isn't a match for you in the long run. But Dazzler destroys the machine, and has like the girls and the people around, the crowd around them, sing, so that way it really amplifies her powers. Because, you know, because it has to be like a rhythmic, you know, beat to it to make a constant controlled power that she can, you know, shoot out and take out all these thugs. And you want them not to, you know, bother the Inhumans anymore. And if, like, you ever try to even attempt that, I will, you know, personally lay you out. And it's pretty much send them running. But, you know, this kind of leads her to understand, like, you know, when next time she speaks with Colossus, it's like, I still want to have my normal life, but look, I'm here if you ever need me, essentially. And that is pretty much Dazzler. You know, just two one-off little stories really quick, because I got too interested to see, like, okay, what is this Dazzler about? Because like you see her pop up every once in a while, and you really want to like take the time to actually, okay, what is this woman about? And she's actually pretty dope. You know, from what I've been reading, she actually is pretty dope, and I definitely would love to learn more about her. And hopefully, like, you know, Marvel can make some Dazzler comics. You know, since Marvel got all their stuff under one umbrella now, you can actually make Inhumans and Marvel X-Men. You can actually, you know, put in some time, get somebody to write some, you know, Dazzler stuff. And of course, maybe like this Dazzler, nobody expect Dazzler to be on the same level as like Spider-Man, but actually get some competent writers involved. It's like, hey, like, I got a good solid Dazzler story, you know, like, let's put out like at least a 5-6 issue mini, and just really get people's feet wet with Dazzler. Anyway, let me know what you think of the character Dazzler. Like, does like she, you know, interest anybody? Because she has like at least 3 comics, 2 of which are like one shots, so you can read in one go. It won't take you all that long. The other is, I think, like 10 issues, but this is like kind of like an older story. But you probably should be able to get something out of it. This probably has those times when she actually deals with those heavy hitter villains. But yeah, Dazzler's pretty fun. She seems like a very fun character. I really would like to read a little bit more of her. and get something, because she actually, not like a sizable roles gallery, but like she dealt with Claw before. Given her power set, he seems like a appropriate villain. Then her own arch nemesis, like kind of like her Green Goblin, makes sense. It would be Mortis. Bring her back. See what what came of that, or at least modernize it, because it's been years since the last time you actually used Mortis in any story. And see where she at, and make like her like the main antagonist. Not sure, maybe like Arcade again, I don't know, but it was like pretty much like the only three that but like I said, there's older comics, you can see what's other villain that she might have tangled with and modernize them, and bring them into a story. I mean, yeah, you can do something with Dazzler, honestly, with that kind of power set, relying on sound, or more specifically music. And you can incorporate all the current pop songs of the day, or rap music, or anything, like just really like keen, like listening to like like Guns N' Roses, or Jay-Z, or Linkin Park, or something like that, and just really play up the music angle. But anyway, I will see you guys in like 10 minutes or so, because I'll be covering like Secret Invasion. It just wrapped up. That was gonna be pretty quick too. I was gonna give you my brief thoughts, but anyway, I will see you all soon. Take care.